I consider the greatest significance of Donald Trump's election, not the actual election of Donald Trump, which I think is greatly significant, but I think the even greater significance is the destruction of the credibility of the leftist media. I don't even know what to call them anymore. I don't want to call them mainstream because they're obviously not mainstream, and I don't want to call them corporate because there are plenty of good corporations, and they call them the legacy media, meaning they were handed down. I just think they're corrupt. I'm talking about the New York Times, a former newspaper, and the TV broadcast network, CNN, all of the people, Washington Post, all of the people who have pretend to cover the news while infusing everything they do with this leftist philosophy, which they got from their college professors and is just wrong and evil and destructive and wicked. And it has infected everything. And anybody who says anything against it has been silenced and derided and even fired from their jobs and, canceled, as they say, thrown off social media, made unhireable. Just really awful, awful stuff that the media has supported and basically has backed. And Donald Trump is rubbing their noses in this by suing a lot of them. And one of them he sued was ABC, where George Stephanopoulos, whatever his name is, who got his job, his only credit, his only resume for getting that job at ABC, where he became their top anchorman, was silencing women who accused Bill Clinton of rape and harassment. He is on tape in a video, a documentary called The War Room. He is caught on tape intimidating reporters who want to report on the fact that Bill Clinton was chasing women around with his pants off, and it was accused plausibly of a serious, actual, in one instance. And George Stephanopoulos managed to silence a lot of that. And that's basically, that was the only credit he had. So I don't know what other, criteria they had for hiring him at ABC. So he was basically the top on-air guy when ABC, as we know, killed the Jeffrey Epstein story during Hillary's run, right? Because it would have hurt Hillary's run for the presidency. And he had the temerity to badger victim Nancy Mace. This is George Stephanopoulos. This is who he is. So apparently, Snuffleupagus was told repeatedly by the ABC brass, do not use this word because it's defamatory, but he couldn't help himself. And after all those years, I guess, of silencing people who were, either accused of or suspected of, he, I guess, just couldn't keep the word out of his mouth. It was like he was confessing to all the bad things he had done. And ABC decided to settle with Trump for $15 million, which will go to his library. I'm sorry they gave him such a high mind. I wanted them to just drop Happy Meals, $15 million worth of Happy Meals on needy areas, and maybe Mar-a-Lago as well, or maybe just the toys from the Happy Meals. But anyway, this is very upsetting to many of the stalwarts of the media. And here is just a brief clip of Jim Acosta and Miss Brian Stelter of CNN discussing how they will just have to become even more heroic than they have been in the past in the wake of this terrible, surrender by ABC. Is cut 10.
But it seems to me that there's a lot of this bending the knee going on, and I'm sure the folks over at ABC will say that that's just not the case. But I just feel, and I wonder how you feel about that aspect of all of this. I mean, to me, it seems this is a time for our industry to stand firm, and we're going to have a very important job to do. And that's not putting us on a pedestal or anything like that, but we're going to have a very important job to do because Trump is not going to change his ways when he gets back in the Oval Office. He's going to continue to say things that need to be fact-checked. And you can't have the news industry worrying about this sort of stuff when they're just simply doing their jobs.
Well, if some bend the knee, others have to stand up straighter.
Now, of course, when you have Jim Acosta and Miss Stelter on camera at the same time, you almost have a high enough IQ to make a single person. It's an amazing thing. And what they're doing is they're playing journalism. They're playing like they have been honest, courageous journalists, when in fact, these are the guys who, were praising Joe Biden. I remember Jim Acosta called him Top Gun. The Top Gun was Joe Biden. He was sharp as a tack and he was so smart. And now we know from late reporting in the Wall Street Journal that from the very first days of his presidency, his aides were covering up for his decline, which was apparent to everybody at the DailyWire. It was apparent to everybody on X. It was apparent to everybody but these journalists who were so standing up so straight on their pedestals that they were just too high up to look down and see that the president was a dotard. So this is what the Wall Street Journal says. Throughout his presidency, a small group of aides stuck close to Biden to assist him, especially when traveling or speaking to the public. They body him to such a high degree, a person who witnessed it said, adding that the hand-holding is like anything other recent presidents have had. Now, this is coming in late from the Wall Street Journal. They had 4 years to get this story. And like I said, all the rest of us could see it. Everybody could see it. But guys like Acosta and Miss Stelter kept telling us not to see what we were seeing. Don't believe our own lying eyes when we could be watching CNN instead. And the fact that we're getting this story now is basically part of this. And again, it's not just the lies, Acosta and his ilk, because it's the New York Times as well and the Washington Post, where democracy dies in darkness because they're throttling it in the darkness. It was, the Russian collusion, the good people on both sides, the bloodbath, all of this stuff. But also, it was reporting with faux faces, with straight faces, this felony trial in New York, where no one could name the felony, including the judge. The judge, Juan Merchant, actually said to the jury, you don't have to know what felony you're convicting them of, but if you feel in your hearts there might be a felony he was guilty of, you can convict him of. So they took that seriously and kept calling him a convicted felon after, like I said, you should be able to name the felony he committed if you're going to call him a convicted felon, while repeatedly saying Hunter Biden's laptop wasn't real, it was Russian disinformation, there was no evidence that Biden was involved in Hunter's influence peddling business, when in fact the evidence was as long as your arm. It could stack it up. There was plenty of evidence that Joe Biden is the most corrupt president of my lifetime and probably in the history of the United States of America. He was more wicked in his abuse of the DOJ, in his abuse of the legal system, of putting away his political enemies, silencing his political enemies through various departments. He was more wicked every day than Trump was on any day, whatever mistakes you think Trump has made. Now, here is my Christmas wish, okay? Not all truth tellers are on the right, but the leftist liars have had such a stranglehold on our culture and on our media that it has to start with the right. We need reporting power. This is a real thing. We need reporting power. The New York Times, a former newspaper which lies and lies and lies and lies, has more reporting power than all the right put together, that single newspaper. It has more reporting. It has incredible reporting power, and they can still deliver well-reported stories when they are in their interest. That makes them more wicked, just like somebody with talent who uses that talent for evil is more wicked than an untalented person who just bumbles around trying to do wicked things, but really doesn't have the ability to do it. What the New York Times does is especially wicked because they have so much reporting power, because they get the cream of the crop, because they are like that guy in Men in Black who's inhabited by an alien. They are the former newspaper that was really a good news in the 80s. They were always liberal, but they were not leftist like they are now. They were not trying to bring down American society. They were not doing things like agitating so that the cops couldn't search people for guns. They were not the racism, the absolute flagrant racism. So part of what we're seeing right now and what we've been seeing this week on Capitol Hill are the whipped dogs of the Republican Party who are so used to being abused by the media, and they're in this bubble in Washington, D.C., that they think the media has credibility. They're still doing it. When you were watching this budget foofara, I'm sure you saw some of this, where they have this continuing resolution going on, and they're trying to, what Trump wants is he wants to get the debt limit out of the way, so he's not going to have to deal with another shutdown thing that's going to distract everybody from what he's trying to do. And all we get from our side is this commentary. We have commentary. We have plenty of commentary, like what I'm doing now. And commentary is great. It's important. It has done the job of bringing down. We pantsed the mainstream media. That's what we did. We pulled down their pants and let everybody see their lying asses. That's basically what we did. But we didn't have the power to bring actual news to people. Now, what you get in this situation, for instance, you get everybody blaming Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson is not blameless as the Speaker of the House, obviously. He is not blameless. He promised this kind of end of the year continuing resolution bill was not going to happen, where they just omnibus spending, and Chuck Schumer got to load it up with all these little things that he wanted funding, things that we don't want funded, like the department in the State Department where they have supposed to keep the Russians and Chinese from infiltrating our information system with propaganda. That's what it's there for. But instead, it has been linking with organizations that are there to stop places like the DailyWire from getting advertising by naming us hate groups or by naming us fake news or whatever. We're suing them. And the Federalists, the Daily Wire and the Federalists are suing them for doing this stuff. And this bill would have funded them. And then that bill was put aside. And the thing is, Donald Trump then pulled the rug out from under Mike Johnson, but Mike Johnson was consulting with Trump the entire time, right? I mean, Mike Johnson is a smart man, and he has the worst job in Washington, D.C. I would rather clean the streets with a toothbrush than be a Republican Speaker of the House, because a Democrat Speaker of the House, and Nancy Pelosi, is leading zombies. They'll follow her anyway. Yeah, it's becoming Miss Pelosi, we're following you anyway. Whereas I think there, as many Republicans as there are in the House, each one of them forms a different constituency. So Mike Johnson has to, wrangle cats, as they say. And not only that, the media, this leftist, corrupt media, will support Nancy Pelosi even when she fails. Whereas if Mike Johnson even succeeds but has to make a concession somewhere along the line, as he's going to have to because he only has a slim majority, if he has to make some compromises, we will rip him to pieces. So I feel sorry for Mike Johnson. He's a genuine conservative. He wants to do right. But he got caught here, and he got caught he was talking to Elon Musk. He was talking to Donald Trump. And then when he got out there with this bill and it looked as ugly as it did, they pulled the rug out from under him. That's the truth. But, I'm sorry, but we have to have reporting power. This is what conservatives who care about this country should be thinking about right now. Reporters who can get the story, get it as fast as possible, get it from the inside, and get it with the facts alone. And listen, I love the Daily Wire. We have made great strides in reporting. We have reported some serious stories this year that have done some really big effects. My feeling is, and Jeremy may tell me I'm wrong about this, but I feel that this is basically a cultural site, and we are moving more and more in a cultural direction. And that's kind of what we do. We comment on politics, but we're moving in our direction. All our instincts, I think, are cultural instincts. And this is something that has to go on. One of the things that has completely fallen apart that nobody reports on is local news. And this is not a conspiracy. It's because the finance system, which had to do with advertising, fell apart when the internet came along. So Craigslist replaced the classifieds that used to keep local newspapers around. When I was a newspaper man in a small town, I had something like 4 or 5 outlets that I had to compete with to get stories. I would report on school boards as if it was Congress. And I remember meeting a guy in a pharmacy because he didn't want to get caught handing me information about what a school board was doing. And we just walked by each other in the aisle. Absolutely true story. And he just put this roll of paper in my hand that was the secret meetings of the school board, of the local school board. And I was scuttled away and had this story that I could break to catch the school board. Without that, our school boards have been taken over by perverts who are trying to trans our children and pervert our children and get. And here's just a clip of a dad in California who was standing up against a local school board because of what he found out was being taught in his kid's class. Here's cut 11.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I am here to talk about an assignment that was showed into my daughter's classroom. I'm going to read the assignment. I do have a picture, but that's neither here nor there. It says, stand in a circle. Each of you is now gay or lesbian, and you're about to begin your coming out process. You cannot talk for the rest of this activity. I don't see how this is part of the California curriculum for education. There's nothing that it does other than groom children.
All right. So that stuff would not be happening if there were still 4 outlets covering that board and what the school was doing and who the people were who were running for that election. There are basically no local reporters anymore who do that. And if they do, they're single outlets instead of competing to get the news. And it's just important if you are a businessman, if you are trying to start a business, if you're thinking about the media, talk about reporting. We have all the commentary we need. All you have to do is come to me and you will get all the commentary you need. But we need people who go out and get the facts and do this stuff. And we need it at the national level. We need it at the international level. But most importantly, we need it at the local level because that has fallen apart. We need a new business model to get it going. With that kind of reporting, we can get the political things we want, and we will have my true political Christmas wish, which looks like this.
We're going to win so much. We're going to win at every level.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
We're going to win economically. We're going to win with the economy. We're going to win with military. We're going to win with health care and for our veterans. We're going to win with every single facet.
Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay. My, oh my, what a wonderful day.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. You'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore.
I feel pretty, oh so pretty. I feel pretty and witty and gay.
We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more.
If you love that, and I know you did, like and subscribe, and also subscribe to The Andrew Klavan Show wherever you get your podcasts.